Let's start this off. The new series, the Co-Angler series, non-boater series, whatever you want to call it. I've been kind of debating on doing one of these. The reason is, it's semi-controversial, or I'll put it to you this way. Man, it can be looked on and viewed upon in so many different ways. So I'm going to try to maneuver through this series. I don't know how many I'm going to do. I'm going to do a couple. I know the first video I'm going to do, and this is an easy one because I get asked it a whole bunch. And then we're going to start diving into other things about, you know, being a co-angler, what can I do, what should I not do, all the things that go along with it, and try to help people understand maybe how to catch more fish, what they should expect out of their boater, when they should move up to the boater side, all kinds of different things. Okay, so we're gonna start going into this, and like I said, I've been kind of hesitant about doing this, and I didn't really know how, but I just get so many questions, I might as well just dive right on it. So let's roll. All right, just a little background on me. My name's Todd Couchline. I fished a ton of tournaments, right? I fished a ton of team stuff. I fished a lot of individual stuff. I bring that up because I don't really know how many I've fished individual just with FLW. I'm thinking over 130 events. So that's about 130 co-anglers I've had. Not to mention the ABAs I fished, not to mention the Bass Opens and stuff I fished. I don't think I'm up to 200 tournaments, but I'm probably well over 150. So I've had at least 150 co-anglers in my life. So, and not to mention other little stuff that I've actually fished. So I've dealt with a bunch of them. I've got a lot of them that are friends. I've traveled with a bunch. I've met a bunch of them that are now like really close friends of mine. So I've seen it all, from the good, the bad, all over the spectrum. I've seen it all. So I'm going to try to do the best I can and explain my opinions. Oh man, my opinions, man, my opinions are scary. The reason I'm going to do it, I'm just going to give you what I think. I'm probably going to get stuff wrong. People are probably not going to agree with me. I get it. I understand. This is just what I personally think. So, the first video, guys, it's not going to be that crazy and wild, and I hope none of them are crazy and wild. This is not meant for it to be wild. These videos aren't supposed to be so opinionated that it makes people mad. That's not my intention. My intention is just to give you all the best advice I can. Okay, so first video, really simple. I get this a lot, and I get it from guys fishing the co-angler side, and they're trying to figure out when they should move up and start fishing the boater side. Okay, I'm gonna tell you my story about when I knew. I was 16 years old. I was 16 or 17. I can't even remember. I was on my home lake of Lake Livingston. It was the first ever time I fished a Pro-Am style event, and I was fishing the co-angler side. I drew on day one a guy named Randy Melinder. I bring up old Randy because I'm so good friends with Randy. I see Randy all the time. At the time, I didn't know him. I was just a young kid. And we started off, I wasn't nervous a bit. This was my home lake. I'd already won tournaments on this lake, fishing team events. So when we pulled up to the first spot, I already knew what was there. Like, we pulled up to these docks. It was in the morning time, and he started fishing docks. Well, I knew that there was these rocks on the bulkhead underneath the water that you couldn't see. When he would go up around these docks, when he would get close enough to the shoreline, I'd throw my spinnerbait over there on the shoreline because it was in the morning time, and I knew those rocks were underneath there, and I ended up catching 2 fish. Well, it didn't take Randy too long. He dug around, got a spinnerbait. He was trying to find one just like mine. One of my buddies at the time was a guy named Jesse Parker, lived on Lake Fork. He was with Terminator Spinnerbaits, and it was a prototype Terminator spinnerbait. So even Randy was like, man, I've never actually seen one like that. Well, he dug out a spinnerbait that was close, and I mean, just like that, caught 2 good ones. I couldn't do anything, about it, and it wasn't a big deal. But I had already caught 2 good ones. He caught 2 good ones. So in the first hour, there was 4 pretty good ones in the boat. He ended up worming those docks for the rest of the day. He did pretty good. I ended up only catching those 2 fish. He fished real slow. He did everything that he was supposed to do. and caught them. And I think I had one bite all day long, and it was like a 40-pound catfish. At the end of the day, I was telling my dad, I was like, I could have done that. Like right then and there, I was like, hey, I could have done that. I knew about those dikes. I knew about the rocks. I knew what to throw on them. I knew all that stuff. That's all it really took for me. I was like, hey, I can do the same thing that he was doing, and I'll be fine. The next day, I drew a guy who knew absolutely nothing. He zeroed on day one. We went to the south end of the lake. It was, I'll be honest, it was a nightmare. He didn't catch any. He caught one fish on a place. I was telling him all these places to go, and after like the third or fourth place we went to, I was like, I wasn't going to tell him any more places because it just wasn't a good deal. He ended up catching one, and I wasn't going to show him around the lake. I figured he didn't put in his time. He didn't try to practice. I was done. So it was a great experience on day one, a horrible experience on day two, but I kind of realized that I could do exactly what those guys were doing. There was no difference. So I ended up right then and there going, I'll never fish another event as a co-angler. And I didn't. And it was a great move for me. And I don't regret it. Like I'm fine with that. And I enjoyed fishing on the boater side. I always have. Now, that's not the case with everyone. I mean, you got a guy right now in the elites, Brian New, that fished on the co-angler side forever, killed it, and is now killing it on the elites. So my story is not like everyone else's story. Everyone's story is different. That was just mine. I didn't exactly fish the next year as a boater. I still didn't have a boat. But I knew I didn't want to fish on the co-angler side again because it frustrated me. Okay? And that's something we'll go into, the frustration part. We'll go into that into another series because that is a whole different deal. And that's like expectations and frustrations and what you're getting into as a co-angler. Okay? That's different from what I'm talking about. Guys ask me, the number one question is like, how do I know when to move? You're already asking yourself that question. It wasn't a hard question for me. It was easy. I mean, I didn't even think twice about it. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. I'm going to fish the boater side. If you're worried about it and you keep putting it off and you want to do it, if you're wanting to fish on the boater side, then do it. Don't wait for anyone's opinion. Don't ask anyone. Don't worry about it. Just go do it. You're fine. If you do horrible, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But go do it. If you're already wondering about that, that means you're already wanting to be that and try it out. Try it out for a year. See what happens. If you're so worried that you might mess up or not do as good as your expectations and you want to go back to the co-angler side, that's fine. But you might not ever be ready in your head. And what I mean by that is the best example I can give, if anyone has ever had a kid before, I always tell people like, you can plan and plan and plan it all you want to, but until it happens, you're really never ready. And then all of a sudden when it comes, oh, you're pretty ready. I kind of treat this the same way. I'd say if you've got the means and you've got the time, go ahead and jump over. Now, what I mean by the means and the time, one, you have to have the boat and the money and everything else. Now, you don't have to have the nicest boat, guys. You just have to have a boat that you think is going to hold up. And what I mean by that is there's boats out there, brand new boats that are going to break down too, in old boats. No one minds an old boat. Okay, I had an old boat. What you mind is an old boat that's not taken care of, or any boat that's not taken care of. And it's not the way it looks. It's just, do you take the effort to make sure the live wells are always working? Things like that, because you're now responsible for someone else in your boat. Okay, you're responsible for someone else and keeping their fish alive and doing everything possible for them to have a good tournament. And what I mean by that is their expectations to getting in this event as a co-angler, if you're a boater, is that you're going to have things in that boat that are going to at least have the opportunity for them to compete, right? Live wells breaking down can happen, but if it looks like you haven't really tried your hardest to maintain like good wiring and it looks like you just let things go, that's hard on a co-angler, because when something bad happens, they know it wasn't just an accident. It was someone not taking care of their stuff and having it ready. So you want a guy, a boater, that has everything ready. As a boater, that's your responsibility, to make sure you try your hardest to keep everything ready. Do you know how many times I've heard horror stories of boaters breaking in their boat the day of the tournament? Like breaking in their boat with a co-angler in it. I can't make this stuff up. Like they bought a brand new boat and they're breaking it in the day of the tournament. They can't go over 40 miles an hour. They had to idle around. They have to do, they have brand new boats where they don't know how to turn the depth finders on and things like that. They don't know where the keys are. I mean, they don't have life jackets, kill switches, all these things. Like these are the things that as a boater, you should be ready for. So if you're trying to make that jump, it's not just always about catching fish, co-anglers. It's about being ready to make sure you have your stuff ready. And like I said, you're responsible for a co-angler. The fishing part, no one's always going to be on fish, okay? No one's always going to be doing the right thing, and it's not a big deal if you go out there and zero and all your fish leave, okay? You don't want the guy that continually shows up, that doesn't practice, you know, that's not ready, that it's okay if you spend 2 days on the lake and don't find anything. I'm all right with that. Like you went out there and tried, but you want the guy that went out there and at least gave a little bit of effort, tried to figure it out. As a co-angler, that's what you should look at. As if you're wanting to make that jump, make sure you have the time to go put in. You don't have to put in a bunch of days of practice. Most of the time I only put in one on like a BFL or something like that. But I've also been to most of these lakes before. I know them. I kind of understand what I'm going to go do. I've been doing this for a while, so I can actually practice less. But if it's your first time, you want to make sure you have those days where you can take off some days and go practice. You want to be able to put in some time and some research on these things. It's okay. Like I said, it's fine if it's fishing. You're not always going to catch them. Things are going to change on you. You know, most co-anglers don't mind if the fishing gets hard. I go out there all the time and the whole plan has changed. I mean, I can tell it. Everything I was going to do has changed, and I just go do something else. And I'll tell the guy, I'm like, hey, I've never practiced here before. I've never tried this, but everything else isn't working, so we're going to go try something new. I'd want that over the guy going, man, I had 2 bites here in practice, and we're going to stay here all day long, and then zeroing because he doesn't know anywhere else to go or doesn't even at least try to go do something else. I'd rather want the guy that tries to do new things or says, you know what, my whole practice, I'm throwing it away, and I'm going to go try new stuff. When you're in that back of the boat as a co-angler, y'all been there where you're like, man, I just want to get around some fish, and if things aren't working, try something different, okay? And as a boater, that's what you want to do. So all these things, if you're trying to make that jump, these are the things I would be worrying about, not whether or not you're going to catch fish. To be honest with you, a co-angler doesn't really care if your boater catches any fish, right? I mean, he's just hoping you're around some. Same thing, if you're a co-angler and move to the boater side, you're probably ready. And a lot of times, co-anglers want to move because they're frustrated in some of these events with drawing pros, you know, or boaters that don't do these things. If you're one of those guys that understands that and sees that your boater's not doing that and you want to make that switch, I would assume other co-anglers would be happy to draw you because you understand kind of what not to do, right? You've seen the mistakes those guys have made, not with the fishing, with the other part, with like the, you know, not being prepared, not putting forth the effort, things like that. If you're worried about all this, I promise you, you'll do fine. Now, you're almost never ready. Okay, I'm saying this, guys. Trust me, you will never really be ready on the fishing side to fish as a boater. You're really never ready. And what I mean by that is, don't take this the wrong way. It's all of us, right? It's every one of us is like that. You're gonna get better by the more tournaments you enter, but you're really never ready that first event. You might do good the first event, but you might do horrible the second event. it takes some time. It takes some time to have all the things that are going to happen. Okay. Everyone can catch them. When you go out there and find some fish, and the next day is exactly the same. It's a 7 mile an hour, south wind, sunny, just like it was the day before, and no one's sitting on your spot, right? Or your area. You're going to probably catch them. But man, then you have these storms, these rains, these flooding. It goes from cloudy one day to bright sunny and calm the next. It's blowing 40 miles an hour the next day. You go out there, and your spot that you're going to catch them on, there's 6 boats on, and you're going to have to go do something different. There's no way to prepare for that. In my experience, do prepare for that. And so I don't really get rattled. If any of y'all have seen my videos, you see how many times that I have dealings with, let's just call them idiots on the water. Okay. That's what they are. It doesn't rattle me. I mess with them. I give them a hard time because I don't think what they're doing is right, but it doesn't rattle me. If you see me, I never yell at them. I never cuss them. I move on. I do whatever I need to do because I've done this for so long. I'm used to this, right? I'm used to guys doing things like this. So I've already prepared for things like this to happen. That's experience. You can't have that experience by sitting in the back of the boat. You have to get in the front of the boat. You have to experience all the things. You have to experience the weather, the people, the changing conditions, all that. And then those decisions that you make after that, those are what's going to propel you to the next level to where you're comfortable fishing on the boater side. But I'm telling you, if you think you're ready and you want to do it, go ahead and jump over. See if you like it. Some do, some don't. There's a lot of reasons why some guys will never jump to that boater side. And we'll get into that later in another series. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just telling you, if you think you're ready, go ahead and do it. If it was me and I was on the co-angler side and I drew you, a guy who's going to jump over, all I'm really hoping for is that you've at least put in a little bit of time and effort to try to find some fish. I don't care if you catch them. I don't care if I catch them. I'm just would be excited to go, hey, I found some fish. We're going to go try for them. And if things don't work out, we're going to go try new stuff. We're going to keep on trying throughout the day to figure them out. Because as a co-angler or as a boater, you can use that other guy to help you. Y'all can, I don't know how many times we've been out there where we both kind of figured it out together just by fishing. Like it happens in team tournaments, happens on the water all the time. So, but I want that guy who wants to be out there, who wants to go try something different, put in the time, the effort, never stops till the end of the day, and his whole goal is out there to do good in the tournament, not to break in his boat, not to, look at the lake and drive around. No, I want a guy who's out there really trying to succeed in this event. The guys that ask me these questions, like, hey, am I ready? I bet you're that guy. I bet you're the guy wanting to go do it. That's the deal. Guys, jump into it, man. I promise you, just dive headfirst into it and go try it. Just try to make sure your boat's up to a par level, that you've put in the work, that you've got the time. Those are the things you want, And I think good things will happen to most of those guys. Like you'll be able to succeed. So stay tuned for this. I've been writing down questions from co-anglers on my YouTube stuff and everything. And then what I'm going to try to do is get some of these co-anglers that I travel with to step in a couple times and help me out with some of these things. I'm going to ask them some questions. I got some guys, man, we travel with some pretty good co-anglers that have won a lot. So I'm going to try to get that in there as well. Just stay tuned. This is episode 1, guys. Hopefully I can keep this going. Hopefully we can kind of like get into more discussions about this. Those comments I get from y'all help me understand on what to talk about, like the questions y'all have. Like this is why I'm doing this series, is because I get so many questions about this. So keep them coming. I'll write them down, and hopefully one of those questions you ask on YouTube and on the comments, I'll be able to answer. I don't answer some of them on my comments, and the reason is they are so complex, right? Like this question itself right here, how do I know? It's too complex to just write it all down. So it's easier for me to make a video. Hopefully it helps you guys, and you know, maybe in the future y'all be fishing against me on the boater side. See y'all guys. Stay tuned for the next episode. Don't want to miss it.